of this dark regime on US soil. So one of the keys I was getting is linked to Scientology, okay? So Scientology has been coming up a lot. I know that it was founded by a former CIA agent, okay? And it's not Ron Hubbard. Is that his name? It's another one, okay? So there is something about them almost operating as if they're their own, like, CIA, this Scientology. And the thing that's interesting about them is that they had a lot of emphasis on Hollywood and their celebrity. I don't know, they're like, was it like their celebrity club or something like that, where all the celebrities, they had these like elite status and like all these amazing things if they joined. And I feel like that was just almost, I don't know if it was pre-planned this way, but almost like an infiltration into Hollywood in some way. So when you watch the Spy Files episodes on the YouTube channel Blown for Good, it's interesting. I watched the Oprah ones with Tom Cruise, and they are, it's pretty scary, okay? And the way they go through scenarios is very much like an intelligence officer would go through a scenario, okay? They go through it so much that they like almost overwork the scenarios of how Oprah's supposed to react and how Tom Cruise is supposed to react, and that if it goes a certain way, it's going to be a problem. And it's very meticulous, and it's very, I don't even know what the word, insane. It's very crazy the way they write it and the way they move through and address just how he has to go through certain interviews. And that's just one example of the connection to intelligence. Now, Kanye West, okay, had an issue with his trainer, all right? And I think something came up and his trainer, I think, threatened to hospitalize him or might have hospitalized him against his will. And then reports came up that that same trainer was a Canadian intelligence officer, okay? So I'm going to go into just some stuff briefly. I received an email after I had been on my channel for many, many years reading on politics, on Trump, on Russia, on the infiltration, the 2016 election. I was following the Mueller investigation super close. I was following all of the investigations. I was following the indictments, and I was doing readings on them as well. And one of the things that happened in 2021 is that I received a warning email that if I didn't stop what I was doing and turn it into some kind of film or script or TV series, question mark, that I would become human trafficked just like Britney Spears. And they used the exact verbiage of, they put Britney Spears in the email, they used her name, and they referenced human trafficking. And for many of you that have watched me, that's exactly what ended up happening to me. They infiltrated me through my DNA. They hooked up some kind of a system to my head, some kind of a like military system. And the first connection that I had to this system felt like it was an actor, Wilson Bethel. And he was the star of Heart of Dixie. And I felt that he might have had connections to Scientology. Okay. So that was like what was going on in my mind at that time, was something about acting, actors, and Scientology. And then also in those interactions felt like there was some kind of military that was coming in and out of whatever this headset was. And I didn't know what it was. Like I could hear somebody in my ear. I thought it was an alien, and I would joke about it on my channel that there was like an alien in my ear, which when dealing with Scientology could very easily be an alien, because I think a lot of them are aliens. Like, I don't know, because that's what they deal with, right? They're the Church of Spiritual Technology. They specialize in aliens. And so, you know, I felt like it kind of tied together. So what's interesting to me is that I had a lot of clients. I had clients that were former CIA. I had clients who were Air Force. I had clients that were connected to the Justice Department. I had a lot of clients that come through my soul coaching, and I did a lot of readings with people who were connected probably to our intelligence community. I might not have like really thought anything of it or really recognized it at the time per se, but I also wasn't that surprised. I had a lot of people that worked in government positions. I mean, because I was reading on government. I was reading on I was reading on all these things. So none of that really shocked me, but there was a common thread for me of Air Force. Okay. There was a lot of Air Force that was coming through as clients. And so I couldn't really connect the dots together between Scientology an Air Force. Like, I was trying to figure out part of this system, how that would be the case. But there's something that came in today that maybe kind of like, I don't know, was a little bit of a light bulb moment for me. And that was John Travolta. Okay. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with John Travolta. But he is a member, obviously, of Scientology. And I know there's been a lot of, stuff about him and, his connection to it. But he is a pilot. And I forgot about that. And I know he was doing a lot of flying, and there were a lot of reports about him flying. But for some reason today, I was thinking, is he somehow connected to Air Force somehow? Or Air Force through some type of Air Force intelligence in some way? Or is there some kind of a connection there? Because I never really could put that together. Also, in terms of military, the Sea Org is located in Florida. Okay. And so that is Scientology's quote unquote military. Okay. Which is interesting because Scientology has their own freaking court system. They have their own lawyers. They have their own medical teams. So they've actually like created their entire working, I don't know, system or justice system within their church, which is really interesting because in terms of how they think, they think very differently than probably a regular or standard US citizen because of how they're treated, how I guess how controlled they are. Okay. And if you guys have watched the Leah Remini docuseries, she talks a lot about, she goes through all the interviews of people who are victims of Scientology that can't get out, that if they leave, they would leave behind their entire family. Some of them are not with their children. Their children are put in the Sea Org and they're put in the Sea Org and the children are put somewhere else. So they're separated from their children a lot. They're separated from husbands. They're separated from wives. Some of them can't communicate or go and see each other. It's kind of like its own prison system, Scientology. So I have felt that through whatever this infiltration was, that I've been kind of like parallel to a lot of these dark cults and regimes that I can't like escape from because of whatever this military system is, which I believe is connected to Havana syndrome. And it just feels like it's kind of like this dark web of technology and intelligence that in some way blocks you from getting out. Like you can't get out. I'm not a member of Scientology, but I feel like I can't get out of Scientology. Like that's the energies of this. But I'm also connected into the whole dark network, which connects into Russia. It connects into Saudi Arabia. It connects to Trump land, Manhattan. It's a whole dark infiltration network. But for me, I had a really hard time kind of figuring out how the military was coming into the network. And I know that a lot of times, well, I don't know if I want to say a lot of times, but there was a person who was former Air Force that came on Instagram, and she was part of the investigating of what was coming out of the planes. And she was part of the unit where she had to investigate chemtrails and where chemtrails were coming from and who was putting them, and that they were going out through Air Force. Okay. And she said that she was doing a lot of digging on how on the chemtrails and why they were putting them out and who was paying for it. And she got shut down pretty quickly, and she learned really fast not to ask any questions or anything. But she felt that was a key I don't want to say gateway into the military through corporations, because there were corporations that were paying for these chemtrails to go out. So that goes back to money. And I've shown on my my whole trafficking series that there was like chemtrails that showed up right next to me in the form of an X on both sides of me about 20 minutes after I arrived to a certain location, and they were X's, and I immediately thought Elon. I'm like, oh, it's Elon, because I have felt all of them around me through these systems, through Neuralink, through brain chipping. I have felt Zuckerberg with his mind reading technology. I felt all of them, and they're all part of the same network. They're all part of the same group, and they're part of this underground dark agenda, the dehumanization agenda, and the agenda to own the world domination agenda that is aligned to all of the authoritarian dictators, Putin, etc., which is kind of what we've been witnessing right now. But I guess for me, it just feels like we're still trying to like figure out the keys of how everything connects in. And for me, that was just like one of the keys, so to speak. Thanks, Cindy. Oh, you like my grades. Oh, thank you. Thanks, girlfriends. So I think like right now, a lot of the country is probably going to start waking up to this dark agenda of everything that had happened with the infiltration of Russia and Trumpsky. And it's going to continue because he's on the ballot right now. And I think that we still have a lot of like unanswered questions. And the fact that we are just now, like just at the Stormy Daniels hush money trial in 2024, which occurred in 2016. I mean, it just kind of goes to show like we're kind of dinosaur in terms of catching up with what's like really going on, or like really addressing what happened still with that election, even though Sally Yates came forward and said that she thought that Donald Trump had been compromised by Russia. So I think again it's going to be a lot of the stuff that's still coming up, but Scientology to me feels like it is a key to this network, and it's a key to Los Angeles, Hollywood, celebrities, and ownership, and I feel like it is directly linked to human trafficking. And I feel that their alien technologies are so advanced and that they might have been interacting with some form of intelligence internally, CIA, or some type of something going on, because they have access to things that I don't feel like they're supposed to have on US soil. And they have access to space technologies and things that don't make sense to a church, especially a church that doesn't even have to pay taxes. It doesn't sound like it's a church. I mean, it sounds like it's something else going on. And I think that that is also something we're going to have to address globally in terms of what a church is, because I'm beginning to think a lot of churches are just to move money. And I don't really think a lot of it just feels like it's to control, own, and it's part of a white supremacy agenda. I don't feel like church is like the same way that it was back in the day. Like I feel like it has turned into something that is pretty illegal and occult in some way. And the fact that they don't have to pay taxes is kind of like, maybe we need to start looking at what a church is, because now there's satanic churches that fall under the same category. And they just announced a freaking after school group at one of the local middle schools that I was near, and they got approved for it by the Board of Education, which is really scary. And it just kind of goes to show the level of this infiltration and the normalizing of Satanism, which is nothing other than dark. And they're not going to go into the dark aspects of Satanism. They're going to pretend it's something positive, and it's a lie. It's completely a lie. And again, they're falling under the same category with the tax breaks that the rest of these churches are. And they are operating on a criminal operation agenda that is not aligned to anything of the light. So I feel like we have to address that globally as well, and in our country. So maybe some of that will start to come up in terms of just our knowledge of everything. But I hope you guys are doing great. Thanks again for all of your donations and your love. I feel like I'm waiting for a victory right now. I'm waiting for some recognition. I feel like I have been so overdue for something positive to come my way, but somebody or something keeps blocking that opportunity for me. And I don't know how or why that's happening, other than the fact that I think that there is something not right that is going on US soil right now. So hopefully, I don't know, say prayers for these investigations to continue forward and for the right teams to be figuring out what this technology is, these weapon systems that they're putting on civilians, because this is part of a bigger like global agenda that has to be shut down ASAP. So thanks so much for all the love and prayers and support. Would love to hear comments and feedback on this vid. And thanks again, and I'll talk to you guys soon, okay?